Hey guys, what is up? Welcome to my channel. Ignore my hair today. I know it's messy, but not as messy as this Love is Blind season 6 reunion. Y'all, this reunion was different than any reunion we've ever seen before. They brought out the baddies, they brought out the irrelevant people, and it was kind of just a mess. It was a mess that I thoroughly think that I enjoyed. All 1 hour and like 30 minutes of it. So let's get into it. It opens up and the set looks a little different. Oh, they did it at the original, like the Love is Blind set, like where the pods are and stuff, which I thought, you know, was cool. And then it panned to the audience and there was just other Love is Blind, some successful and some unsuccessful couples there. And it kind of just caught me off guard because this is initially what I thought, is that, you know, the show is almost losing its validity every single season. The number of people that actually end up together goes down more and more. So I'm like, did they put the couples that like ended up married there, like to validate that, you know, maybe sometimes when this experiment is done right, you know, once out of the million casting calls we've had, it sometimes works out. But then I was like, oh my gosh, they have people there who like are not even in relationships right now. Like Izzy and Micah were sitting together. I'll try to look past that, as hard as it is for now, because there's lots more drama to talk about. So the reunion starts out, and of course we go immediately to Amy and Johnny. The only sure thing that everybody was positive of is that they were together, and we were right, and they seemed so cute and so happy almost a year into their marriage. So that was easy. That was easy to digest. And then they pan to Jeremy. The love of our lives. They pan to Jeremy and they're like, so Jeremy, are you in a relationship? And we already knew that Sarah Ann and him were in a relationship. So they bring out Sarah Ann, and girl, this girl was not on par with the other women's attire. Even the stylist was not team Sarah Ann, because they set her apart on purpose to make her look like she was going to a prom. The other ladies looked like they were going to a elegant, you know, fine dining, ball, and she looked like she was rolling up to her high school prom. They did her so dirty. So they bring Sarah Ann out, and they say that they've been dating ever since Lake Day Gate, which, you know, unfortunately everybody assumed, and they seem to be doing well. Jeremy still looks like he's scared of every word she says. The first, you know, deep cut that we see of the night is Vanessa says, so Jeremy, why did you lie to Laura about your location whenever you knew she had your location? Homeboy just reiterates his original story that him and Sarah Ann did not do anything. And then they have to redirect Jeremy and say, okay, but why did you lie about it? And so he basically just says like a whole bunch of stuff, like he didn't intentionally lie. And they had Laura, my girl, on FaceTime, and they opened her up. They said, we have Laura's location. I was like, this is about to be so good. And it did not disappoint. So they have Laura on Zoom this whole time. She's listening into everything that everyone is saying, especially Jeremy, and she did not hold back on Jeremy. And my girl Chelsea was sticking up for Laura. She goes, well, I don't just talk to people until 5 a.m. in their car when I'm engaged, because we all knew what Sarah Ann and Jeremy were doing. Let's be so serious. And then Laura says he met my family that day and then was with Sarah Ann that night. And let's even when they introduced Laura, Sarah Ann and Jeremy were like, should we clap? Should we clap? I was like, girl, you do know you're on television, right? You know that everybody's watching you do that. That is not how we treat people, my friend. So Sarah Ann is just really digging this hole deeper for herself. Then they showed like a segment of Love is Blind that was not aired on TV. And it was basically Sarah Ann attempting to apologize to Laura. And Laura just was like warning her. She was like, you know what, you can have him, but just be careful because he doesn't say kind things about you. And he's a snake and he's not who he was in the pods. And she calls him a clown. And they did Jeremy dirty too. So Jeremy's up in his Hawaiian shirt, you know, acting like none of this bothers him, acting like Sarah Ann's about to slap him or something, I don't know. But anyways, I thought that was going to be the height of the show. I was like, oh my gosh, we've been spending the whole former half of the show talking about Sarah Ann and Jeremy. Let's get to the good stuff. So then the camera pans to Trevor waiting in the pods to come out to the reunion. So if you don't know, some stuff surfaced on the internet that said that Trevor was in a serious relationship whenever he applied to be on the show, and Trevor did successfully go on the show, but he did not end up engaged. So Chelsea could have picked Trevor over Jimmy. So that was the circumstance that they were all in. So they bring Trevor out and they say, Trevor, the internet is saying that you did this. And before they even gave him a chance to speak and ask him, like, did he actually do that or not, they had receipts. I literally, like, my jaw was on the floor. Like, I like didn't understand what was happening. Like, Trevor, come on, like, you need to clean up the mess that you made. So they show the receipts, and basically Trevor is telling this homegirl that he loves her and that he will never forget her and that he's going to be thinking about her the whole time he's on the show, and that was before he left. And then it shows text messages from when he came back, and he basically was like, I love you, this just validated even more that I want to marry you. I had to pretend to be someone else just so I could get through this show. And everybody's like, Trevor, you do know, like, the point of this show was marriage. And Chelsea is like, what if I picked you? Now, Chelsea says that something told her to not pick Trevor, but I think going back, if she could have known what Trevor looked like as opposed to Jimmy, she would have picked Trevor. I don't think that this girl had any intuition of what was going on. But anyways, so Trevor did have a girlfriend, and Trevor was speechless. He did not know what to say. It was the most awesome point of reality TV I've ever seen in my life. This man was not speaking. He was like just awkwardly just sitting there, like it's like, what do you do? What do you do? And how did they get him out there? There's no way that he willingly went on there to talk about what he did because he knows what he did was wrong. Did they say, hey, we have another Netflix casting call for you, are you interested? And they just put him on Love is Blind reunion and say, hey, we know that you had a girlfriend this whole time? Because that's what I envisioned. And he said he had like a plan on what to say, but baby girl, it did not seem like it. So anyways, that was like a painful 10 minutes of the episode, but it was like my favorite part because I don't know. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I don't think the internet enjoyed it much, but I did. I sure did. So Trevor just kept asking if he could leave, and everybody just kept throwing questions at him. And then finally, Nick was like, you know, we don't ever want anyone to come on the show for fame, and that's exactly what you did. Like, and then they were like, you did it to help your career. And Trevor's like, what career? And everybody's like, exactly. So Trevor was able to leave, and then that was the end of that. And so I thought, oh my gosh, nothing could get better than this. But then we go to Clay and AD. Okay. And they introduced them as, you know, like someone that we were all rooting for. I don't know that I was necessarily rooting for Clay and AD to end up together, but I was rooting for both of them to come to their senses. And it seemed like that has happened. So basically, at this point, we don't even know who is together, who tried dating after the show, except for Amy and Johnny. We know that they are still married and that they are still happy together. So it goes to Clay and AD. Clay looks like he does not want to be there. So they ask, you know, have you guys been in contact? And Clay said after the show that he reached out a few times to AD and AD didn't really respond. And finally she responded, and he basically said that he has been putting in all the work that he said he was going to put in during the finale, i.e. going to therapy, working through some of those traumas, and trying to become a better person so that he can be a great husband. But it's not necessarily to AD. So he calls AD the love of his life and says that he would date her again. And AD doesn't really feel the same. She kind of randomly gets aggressive and is like, you knew you were not ready for marriage before you came on the show. You had your chance, which, there's two sides to this. Clay had been kind of warning AD the whole time that he wasn't ready, but it's also like, and she continued to pursue this relationship with him that was supposed to end in marriage. But it's like, why would Clay go on a show that he knew was going to end in marriage if he knew that he wasn't ready for marriage? And then they asked Clay, you know, did your dad, the one who caused you all this trauma in marriage, did he ever talk to you and apologize like your mom told him to? And Clay really didn't give a clear answer. I think he was like, no, he didn't apologize, but I'm satisfied where our conversations go about it and whatever. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is the issue. Like, I'm so glad that Clay came to his senses and realized, you know, he does have stuff to work on. And I'm so glad AD didn't go back into that situation. But my heart was breaking for Clay. He was crying. He looked very uncomfortable the whole time. And then AD touched his thigh to like comfort him. And I'm like, girl, you just said that you would never get back together with him. And now you're going to do my man like that. Like, you're probably confusing him. But I don't know. Maybe they're perfect for each other. Who knows? But I actually loved Clay and the reunion. I don't know, it hit like a soft spot for me. I always have loved AD, but I don't know. And we never really got clarity on like, did they try and date after? Could they see themselves dating now? Like, we never really got clarity on that. AD was just really mean to him for a second and then switched up on him. So I was like, that's a little weird. So, moving on to Chelsea and Jimmy. There wasn't really a lot to pull from here, so I didn't even want to talk about them, but you know, Chelsea was a huge point of contention in the season, and so was Jimmy, so let's kind of address what happened during the reunion. Photos have kind of been circulating of Jimmy and Chelsea hanging out, so we know that they're close, and they looked super comforting towards each other, but uncomfortable at the same time during the reunion, so nobody really knew what was going on with that. We start with, you know, is Jimmy still upset at Chelsea for, you know, telling his business on TV? And he basically essentially was like, yes, and his friend is mad at him for telling Chelsea to begin with, but if I'm about to be your wife, you better tell me, you know, your past situations, like, come on, be so serious. So I do understand Chelsea, and I think that this girl has gotten a lot of hate, and I don't think she necessarily deserves it, but I do think when you're able to watch yourself in a scenario like that, it can make you more hyper aware of what you need to work on, and not just because the internet tells you need to work on it, you know? Yeah, that's pretty much all we get for Jimmy and Chelsea, and then it goes to Jess and Jimmy. Jess is asked, hey, are you and Jimmy cool? And she was like, well, I thought that we were, but he went on an interview and said that I walked out after 10 minutes on our last date. And she was like, that's not true. He was like, I was in there for like an hour and a half, and we agreed that we both needed a break from the date. And he was like, I'll give you 45 minutes, if that. It felt like 10 minutes to me. So they pan and they go to the old footage, and Jess was completely right. She stuck to her guns, and she just was like, thank you. I'm so glad that Jess did not end up with Jimmy. So that was a snippet that really didn't interest me because I already knew by the stature of the situation that Jess was right. And then Chelsea apologizes sort of for saying that she looks like Megan Fox. And y'all, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I thought it was funny, and the internet got a hold of it and forgot that there was like a real human being on the other side. That's what I think that happened. So I gained a new respect for Chelsea in the way that she's handled the situation. And she's gained a new respect for herself, so I think that that is absolutely awesome. So in conclusion, this reunion was a mess, but it was literally the mess that we all have been waiting for. The only thing I don't like about this show is that there's behaviors that kind of slip, and no one ever talks about it when there's a chance to talk about it at the reunion. And they never really let us know if these things were handled in private or not. But this reunion, I think because of the lack of success that the seasons have been having, success meaning ending in a successful marriage that has stayed together until the reunion, I think they kind of had to up their game and listen to the internet. And plus, the casting is just kind of not good. Like, how could you go through all of this and pick this many bad people to be on a show that should end in a partnership? I just don't understand it. And I would like to think that they care about these people being in a committed relationship, but we know that they don't. So I did like the fact that we dove into it, but I think it kind of dragged on and on and on and on. And the people being there from past seasons really just did not have to be there. And it was kind of just frustrating and aggravating. I don't know, just because every time the camera panned to them, I was like, I don't want to hear what you have to say. I don't want to hear what you have to say. But I think it had the capacity to be cool. I just would have done it a little bit differently. All right, thank you so much for watching this week's video. If you like what you saw, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and leave a like down below. I'll see you next week.